Hello guys and welcome back to Ycft. We've already done the sequel to this film. We do things out of order over here. But it is the 10-year anniversary of Sinister.
Yes, it is.
Written and directed by Scott Derrickson.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange, Black Phone.
Yeah.
With his writing partner, C. Robert Cargill, who also worked on Black Phone. And yeah, this 10 whole years. This is kind of baffling. I always say that there's 3 films that came out one after another. That kind of like established
together.
like the new a
trend
revival of supernatural haunted house. Like that. Insidious in 2011, this film in 2012, and The Conjuring in 2013.
Yeah.
Guess we're doing that next year then.
Yes.
But those 3 films were a massive like revival in the supernatural horror genre.
Yeah, all very
And this
popular.
film in particular, I think it's widely agreed like it brought like a level of production.
Yeah.
Of just like moderate budget but like cinematic lighting
Very
and
much
camera
so.
angles and just like a quality that even like critics who don't like the genre have to appreciate that the film looks really nice.
Yeah, 100%.
We are wearing cardigans because Ethan Hawke has the greatest cardigans throughout this film.
Yes.
This is apparently the scariest film ever made.
That is according to Broadband Choices study. That was conducted in 2020. So, yes, Sinister was ultimately named the scariest film ever. And basically, they had an audience, and they showed this audience 50 of the greatest, highest rated horror films ever made. And I think the list of films was determined by IMDb. So they were recording the audience's heartbeats. And the average overall was 65 beats per minute. That was when they were watching most films. When they were watching Sinister, their heart rates increased by 32% to 86 beats per minute. So it really kind of skyrocketed when they were watching this film, and ultimately that led to this particular study naming Sinister as the scariest film ever made. Worth bearing in mind that it was 1 out of 50 films, and we don't know what other films were included in that list. So it's a fun little bit of trivia that you can connect to the film. I'm going to say right now, this is not the scariest film ever made.
It's creepy, and I think the big part is it's creepy and it's jumpy.
Yes.
We were still big in the jump scare era, and I do think a lot of the jump scares in this film are earned.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are like really into horror. I think the film's okay. But I think for your average cinema goer, this film could be pretty terrifying. And like,
yeah, someone who's not used to horror as well.
Yeah, and like when we rewatched it for this video, like, do you think the film still holds up after a decade?
I do. I enjoyed watching it again. I think when we rewatched it for the video, it's probably only my second time seeing it all the way through.
I saw it in the cinema, but you didn't.
I didn't, but I saw it. I watched it on TV not long. It was still like a fairly new film, I think, because I remember being quite considerably younger when I was watching it. And I did enjoy it, and I clearly have remembered a lot because upon rewatch there were so many. Like I virtually remembered all the scenes, so it's got staying power. That being said, there were a few things that popped up for me this time that I hadn't noticed before, and there are a few cliched moments.
Were they cliche at the time, or do you think?
I think that there are some things that have maybe always been cliche, and I don't even necessarily mean specific to horror. I think there's just like there's a few dialogue issues for me where it doesn't always feel very natural or organic. It's very much things that movie characters say, not necessarily stuff that normal people say. Yeah. There's a few scenes that, again, very specific to what you'd see in a film with a family, not necessarily as something that you'd see in everyday life with your family.
Yeah, it's like you've got some issues. We both have some issues with the family of it. They don't feel like a family. They most of the time don't talk to each other like a family. They're an important part of the plot later on, but we just don't spend enough time on them to care.
I don't think this family, it just doesn't look like it fits. It doesn't seem to fit. And I think I said to you as we were watching it, like, even just down to the physicality, the actors that they chose, they don't look like each other. And I know it's a film and like you cast actors because they're good, not necessarily because of, resemblance, but they kind of didn't fit for me anyway. But then even when you look at them, it's like, well, there's an even further kind of disconnect because the brother and the sister don't look like each other, and the kids that they cast look nothing like the actress that plays the mum or Ethan Hawke. So it's just, on all levels, the family just doesn't quite seem to work for me.
Instead, there's bits of dialogue, like
Yeah.
certain parts of the script that are just like.
And then the family also kind of conveniently disappear when it,
they never wake up during anything that goes bump in the night.
Wake up, yeah. It's like, yeah. There's a few things. I mean, there's a line as well. I mean, kind of going into the plot now, I guess. But obviously,
we are going to spoil this film because it's 10 years old.
Ethan Hawke is a writer. He's a true crime writer, and he's moved his family into this house.
A murder house.
A murder house where, yes, a family were killed. Now, he has not told his wife nor his children about this. But the impression is that because he was once upon a time a famous writer, trying to recapture the fame and the glory he once had 10 years ago with his bestseller, what was it called?
Kentucky Blood.
Kentucky Blood. Trying to chase that fame again. So we understand that he's kind of... This is not the first time he's made his family move for him, for the sake of his career. It's happened before. But there's a line near the beginning of the film where they're moving in, like, you see them with the boxes, like a scene that we've seen loads of times, like moving in. And the wife, who's played by British actress Julia Rylance, she looks at him and she's like, oh, we didn't move a few doors down from a murder house again, did we?
You'd have this conversation beforehand, wouldn't you?
You would 100% have that conversation beforehand. Not the day you were moving your children into a house.
I did like later on when it does go on, it's like, no, this place came up in a steal, and she's like, yeah, I wonder why.
I wonder why.
I would move into a murder house.
We chatted about this recently, didn't we? I think for me it depends on the...
When and what happened.
Exactly, yeah. It's like,
is the killer still alive?
Yeah, are we talking a few years ago? Are the bloodstains still on the floorboards? Or are we talking, like a previous century? Like, it very much context and time is key for me.
Yeah, he has moved his family, because he's had a couple of books that just kind of failed. It is established that he could make money other ways, like teaching or writing like stuff for schools, but he wants that fame. Again, he's caught quite often rewatching old interviews in his heyday. Because the true crime novel Kentucky Blood did help
actually solve crime.
But that comes with its own consequence. Like, because he kind of criticizes the police in areas don't like him. And towns they move to, they know that he's there to reopen old wounds.
Yes.
So the family they're kind of sick of it. And he promises the last time, and he needs this to be...
Yes.
So
he's riding on this on the success of this new novel.
And he finds a box of film.
Yes.
Of home videos. Well, home film videos.
Yeah, in the attic.
And a little camera in the attic.
No less.
No less. Which is introduces probably the most famous part of this film, which is the smut films.
Yeah.
The family videos, which the film opens with as well.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Of a family being hung by a tree.
Mm-hmm.
And the film obviously very quickly tells you that this is that tree by when they look in the garden and you see the branch that has been cut.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, this is that house. And it's pretty eerie to watch. And it's slow and it's
so uncomfortable. It's a hell of an opening for the film. I actually think the opening smut film, the family hanging out, it's probably not my favourite one, but it's the most memorable one for me.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
Interesting, the stunt coordinator got fired over that one. Because he messed up the safety precautions, and basically the stunt team that did it actually got hung.
One job, mate.
One job, so yeah, he was very quickly hung. Even Hawke Ellison instantly assumes that the police didn't miss this, and that the killer has, for some reason, put this box back, because there's other tapes.
Yes.
Like other film, I'm just going to... Tapes just sounds weird because it's like film. I'm just going to call them films.
Yeah.
Other films. We got one of family being burnt. Got some that would be in the throat slit in the sleep.
Yes.
And some that ran over by a lawnmower. That one got a scream in the cinema. And am I missing one?
There's a pool party.
The pool party, yeah, when they're being drowned. Which apparently was the hardest one to film because Bagul, the overall creepy dude,
the big bad,
had to have weights and stand in the water and act unfazed.
Yeah.
As we established in our Sinister 2 video, there was another one that was set at Christmas that was cut for time, which they then reused in that one, and consequently it was actually the best smut film in that one.
Yeah.
They are hard to watch, and when Ethan Hawke has watched them in his office, he hadn't watched them beforehand, so it must be one of the first things they filmed.
Yeah.
So his reaction is genuine, and it's very similar to what your reaction as the audience member is the first time you see them.
Yeah.
And I was trying to work out how they did certain things, because he sets up a sheet and it's projected on. So when we're watching the films, you can kind of see the sheet underneath. So I'm like, right, so they've either done that as a composite, or they're just filming the projection.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, in terms of like budget, they probably just filmed the projection because it doesn't matter what quality they come out because the films are quite grainy anyway. So I think they might have actually just filmed the projection.
Yeah.
And then obviously filmed Ethan Hawke's reaction.
Yes.
And creepy things start to happen.
Yeah. And it's worth pointing out as well that Ellison Oswald, who's Ethan Hawke, the name of Ethan Hawke's character, which is such a like a novelist name.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, but he's a total non-believer in the supernatural. Hence why he's moved his family into a murder house, because he's one of those guys like doesn't think that there's any remote possibility of something spooky happening.
There's a great
or, conjuring something up accidentally.
With James Van Sone's character, the police officer so-and-so, who wants to help him.
He's a fan of his as well.
Yeah, he wants to be in the back of the book where you're thanked.
He wants to be in the acknowledgements. Yeah, like
and he's
his
also he's like, oh, so he's like, would you move your family? He's like, oh god, no. He's like, I'd never go anywhere near this house. I wouldn't bring a fight. He's like, what was done here?
Yeah.
He's like, he believes in the supernatural. And he's like, absolutely not.
I think that's one of my favourite scenes in the whole
film.
I
really like that. I really like those two just together.
Yeah, it's like probably just over the halfway point in the movie, and Ethan Hawke is like, he's getting pretty freaked out by the stuff that's going on in his house. His son is having night terrors, which is something that he used to have previously, but now they're coming back with full force. Creepy stuff is just generally happening, and he invites Officer So-and-so, who's literally his name, into what he's referred to as anyway, into his home for a coffee. And it's just two blokes like having a chat, and Hawke basically wants to be comforted by the policeman, to reassure him that there's no such thing as the supernatural.
He can't tell his wife what's going on.
No, so he has to confide in someone. The guy's literally at breaking point. And Ransone is just like, no.
Prior to that was one of my favourite shots in the film, is when he sits down with a bat in the middle of the night and they do the same shot they did in Sinister 2. The night turning into day, but it's done just by moving lights outside the set, and it's so effective.
Yeah, there's a lot of really effective scenes.
Again, just really nice cinematography. Yeah. Like a lot of thought has gone into this, and it just feels like a high quality film.
Yeah, absolutely. And then he watches the films and he starts doing his research. Officer so-and-so delivers, like he's can look into. He obviously has access to files that Ethan Hawke doesn't, so he's feeding him information, and they start slowly kind of piecing together.
He puts him in touch with a professor played by Vincent D'Onofrio, who kind of keeps seeing this logo. Do you ever get the feeling, because it's obvious later on in the films when he starts finding things that they are not in the films when he first watches them.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the films slowly reveal things?
I think so. When it wants
on purpose,
to.
when it wants to.
Yeah, definitely.
So we find out about Bagul, like he's the eater of children or something like that.
He's an ancient, demonic entity, deity. Yeah. That literally the eater of children. And it's all.
So the similarity with all the cases is that the family is killed, but there's always a child missing.
Yes. Missing, presumed dead, but missing nonetheless.
Yeah. I think the reason this film is has lasted 10 years purely lies with Ethan Hawke. Because really, he doesn't play a likable character.
No, not really.
He's not got good reasons for being where he is.
He's lied to his family. He's literally lied to their faces.
Yeah. But he's a very deep and complex character. But the performance is outstanding. And what's one scene I really like, when he is finally confronted, because his daughter, who likes to draw and paint and on the walls, and the rule is stays in the bedroom. She paints a picture of a dead girl
in the hallway.
In the hallway. It's the same around the same time their son gets in a fight at school. Gets in trouble at school. Not fight. He gets in trouble at school because he's obviously found out the story.
Yeah.
And so kind of when it all comes out.
It all unravels itself, as it was destined to at some point.
He's he's being confronted by his wife. It's like, what's happening to our children? So she heard the story about a little girl that died in this house, and she painted a picture. That's what she does. It's like, she does art. She expresses herself through art. It's like she's got a father that loves her, who's always around and lets her be who she wants to be. It's like, in his mind, because he is always around. He works from home. Yeah. But he's not present. He is there. There's a scene earlier when she goes to bring him his coffee, and his instinct is like, oh, thank you, and closes the door. Yeah. But he does let her he wants her to do her art, express herself. Yeah. So it's like, there is an element of good parenting in there, but I think he sees himself as a much better parent than he is.
I think he sees things from a bit of a warped perspective, because I don't doubt that he does love his children, he does love his wife, and he wants to do good by them, but he's doing it in his own way. Because, you know, we mentioned it before, like they've got a bit of financial problems, and he was presented with a get out clause. Like, you know, he could have taken up those educational jobs. He could have written for, you know, other organisations, but he chose not to, because to him that was an admission of failure. He wanted to write true crime fiction.
He started writing
true
fiction.
Crime, non-fiction.
His wife says that, oh, Mrs. Fiction. He's like, no one liked my fiction.
Yeah,
and she's
exactly.
like, well, I did.
So he's like, they didn't have to be in this position, but he has very much made them be in this position.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a love that's there, but I mean, he is primarily quite a selfish character.
Yeah. And what I really like is, in many ways, there's a massive supernatural presence in this, but this film is more of a true crime investigative film than it is a haunted house film.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, we learn information as he learns information, which I think is the issue the sequel has, which we talked about, because we already know everything. We're waiting for the characters to catch up.
Yeah.
Even characters that were already in the first film,
we
still don't know. And that's what is frustrating in that one. But it's great in this one. Obviously, our generation kind of obsessed with true crime, and this could be a factor in that.
Yeah.
And it's just, I love going on the journey that he goes on.
Yeah, I do too. I like,
and the reveal to me feels very satisfying.
Yes, and also there's a bit of a simple, clever twist that the film presents us with as well. You know,
because I try and watch it without the revelations of the second one, because I think it ruins a lot of it. Apart from his daughter, the revelation about what you always assume. Obviously, spoilers. The reason the kids are missing, Bagul has taken the kids. The kids are the ones that killed the family.
Yes.
So we assume throughout this entire film, because we do see one scene with a ghost in a daughter's room, that the ghosts have been talking to the daughter throughout the entirety.
Yeah.
This is more obviously confirmed, and we see it in full works in the second one. But that's such a great twist, and when you rewatch it, it's really actually quite obvious.
Yeah.
But then it's when he finds like the extended cuts of the film. But this is after, because he's pushed to a breaking point, and made proper plot spoilers here. It does something that I really liked from Insidious. Obviously, Insidious played on the whole, like,
that's what I meant, yeah.
If you're in a haunted house, why not just move? They do, and the ghosts follow.
Yes.
He is pushed to the breaking point. He is terrified by what he is
Took a while.
seeing, by what he is finding, and he burns the films. He's like, we're just going to go tonight, right now. Not
Leave
even wait till morning. Leave stuff. We'll get that. Go. He's like, I'm going to do whatever. I'll take a normal job. He's like, there's going to be no book. I'm done. Obviously, James Van Zone's Officer So-and-so is trying to ring him because he's found a pattern.
Yes.
Oh, so the pattern is that the other killings are decades apart, but they've always lived in the house of the previous killers.
Yes.
By moving, obviously, the theme is, what you can imagine is all these families were haunted to the point where or someone in the family was haunted to the point where they moved out. They were like, we can't live in this house anymore. As soon as they move, that is when they become part of it.
Yes.
That is when they become the victims.
Yeah.
So by moving, he signed his family's death warrant.
Yeah.
That is a twist I absolutely love. And it's that whole thing of like, oh, honest, why not just move? Well, he did, and that was what that's ultimately what kills them.
I can't remember where I read it, but I think it was you that you found it and you pointed it out that Derrickson was inspired by watching both The Ring and The Story of the Woman in Black.
Yeah.
As well. And now I know that, I definitely see echoes of both of those stories in the movie.
Yeah.
The Ring, obviously, like there's a timeline that kicks in, obviously the tapes, but it's a curse, basically, you know, and this is kind of plays into that as well. It's like once you're in the timeline, you're buggered, basically.
Yeah. And obviously, Woman in Black, it's the children.
It's the children.
The children being manipulated.
And even something that I find really scary is the fact that, you know, obviously the Woman in Black, she doesn't only kill the children, but she is still in possession of the souls of the children even
Same
after
with Bagul.
death. And it's very similar with Bagul. There's something just even extra eerie.
Yeah, I love the look
it.
of Bagul.
I love the look of the kids in this as well.
Oh god, the kids are creepy. There's that great scene where he's going through the corridor and
He's
They
just
must have
walking
filmed
around
it
the
separately.
house.
He's
like,
walking the
trying
house
to
for about.
suss-
He can't see them, but we
he can sense something's there.
And they're slightly out of phase with him time-wise. They're moving in slow motion.
Slow motion. And they're not doing anything to deliberately scare him. They're just kind of, they're just around, like running into different rooms and like watching him.
That
And
comes in and the face comes out. It's like, you know it's coming, but it still gets you.
yeah. The
One
kids...
shot I really like is when he's pulled a still frame of Bagul from one of the film. It's in the trailer. It's like the still image just goes...
Yeah.
And just looks at him and it's like, oh, I really like that.
Bagul is creepy as hell.
But obviously when they're back in the house, he finally picks up the phone and realizes like, oh crap.
Yeah.
But I don't think he still fully believes in that it's a supernatural killer at this point. But he goes to a box of another. The box of films is there.
Yeah.
With extended cuts, which is where it is revealed, like the extended version show it is the kids that do it.
Yeah.
And I get a hint early on in the film when she makes a coffee for her father.
Mm-hmm.
Coffee she made from earlier. It contains the magical stuff that Bagul gives her.
Yeah.
Knocks them out. And they are cut to pieces with an axe.
Yeah.
We don't see this. Again, this is the only bit of blood that we see because we see it like on the walls a little bit. She's drawn things in blood on the walls.
Yeah.
And we see like how the kids are then taken. And it's tragic.
It really is.
Absolutely tragic.
There's just like that.
It sticks with you afterwards.
Yeah, it's almost just like, you know, the futility of even trying is just so kind of profound in that moment. Like where Ethan Hawke is really groggy and he wakes up on the floor and he's bound and he's gagged. And he sees his wife and his son are also in a similar position, unconscious. And then, you know, his daughter comes in with like, it's not an axe.
It is an axe.
Oh, it is an axe, yeah. And then, she's like, shh, don't worry, Daddy, I'll make you famous again. And it's just like, he can't, it's just like inevitable. He is going to die. And not only that, but he has to watch his wife and son be freaking axed to death by his own daughter. Yeah, there's something truly, truly horrible about it.
I know it was an interesting fact. I know the film wasn't supposed to end on the jump scare of Bagul's face coming in. That was Jason Blum wanted that one.
The final.
You wanted to end in a jump scare.
Yeah, I do like how people made the connection that Bagul actually looks like a member from Slipknot.
Yeah.
That's just like a well-known thing at this point.
Yeah, I think it's the bassist.
Yeah.
I like how, obviously, there's the drawings on the inside of the box, because he doesn't find the inside of the box of films initially, does he?
No.
And you see, like, it has all of it, and always as Mr. Boogie.
Yeah, I also like, there's all the tapes are named in, seemingly a very innocent name, but it's connected to the method of death. Yeah, pool party, family hanging out. And I can't remember what his daughter calls their tape at the end, but it's they're all called something seemingly innocent.
I think the one's called Yard Work, isn't it?
Yeah, reel you in.
I think the one with the lawnmower is probably the most shocking, just because you feel like you know it's gonna happen, and then it doesn't. It's like, oh, good Jesus.
Yeah, it's like you're following the lawnmower for what is quite a prolonged amount of time, and you're like, wait, is there going to be a jump scare? Oh my god!
Oh my god! Yes, there is.
It just goes on for a bit too long.
It's not gory. The main reaction is obviously the jumps, like...
It's just Ethan Hawke freaking out.
Yeah. Because, again, it's like, if he just films reactions, that was his genuine reaction to that.
Yeah.
Exactly. He just carries this film, and I think if any other actor had done it, I don't think I'd still be wanting to watch this film 10 years later.
I do, there are a few elements I like. I mean, as I say, I do think that there's a lot of... Not a lot, but there are some cliched moments that I did find it a bit, I don't know, irksome. Like, I think it's, like, some of the dialogue is a bit trite, I thought. Like, again, that line early with his wife, like, oh, we didn't move to, a few doors down from Murder House, did we? Like, you wouldn't ask that. You would settle that way before you move. There's a line with the daughter, again, because she likes to draw, she likes to paint, she's actually pretty good. And she says to her dad one day, like, oh, maybe one day I'll be really good, then I'll be famous like you.
Kids don't talk like that.
Kids do not talk like that. Movie kids do. But normal kids do not. Yeah. And then there's another scene, I think I pointed it out to you as well. Like, I feel like this scene has been done so many times, not just in horror, but just in films in general, especially American films, where the family are having breakfast in the morning and beautiful spread. Like, there's pancakes, there's bacon, there's eggs, like everything. And, oh, kids, better watch out because we're going to be late for school. Don't want to miss the bus. And then they literally just have a bite of toast and then they have to leave. Yeah. It's like, I don't know what, that scene to me has happened in every single American film.
Yeah. Americans, if that's what you're putting on for breakfast every single morning and you're having money troubles, that is why, because there is so much food going to waste.
Literally all that gorgeous food. It's like, oh, don't want to miss the bus.
I usually skip breakfast. I could not imagine eating...
I can't get behind that.
I could not imagine having that much food before then having to go out for the day. I'm not awake yet.
I don't like, to me...
But yeah, it is, yeah.
You know what I mean,
I know what
you?
you mean.
It's not just horror. It's just like a thing that, I don't know, is in films. Like, oh, we just skip breakfast because the kids are running late for school.
Yeah. I do think this is still a good film to watch. I think it's still one that's worth introducing people to. Especially if they don't know what's going on.
We haven't even talked about one of my favourite things about this movie, the score.
Oh, the score is great, yeah.
The score is eerie as hell, and...
I always thought like the... I always, to me, sounded like a windscreen wiper.
Yeah.
I know it's meant to replicate... The score's meant to replicate like sounds from like the film camera. To me, it just sounds like a your car's windscreen wiper when it gets stuck on the glass.
It's like the tapes sort of have their own score, don't they? Whenever he watches them, it just kind of goes a bit... I don't know, you always hear like chants, but then there's like weird strings as well. And it was composed by Christopher Young. So the reason I have my phone is because I didn't write down his previous movies. But the guy is very well known within horror as well. So he did the Hellraiser films. He did Species.
That's probably where Scott Derrickson met him.
Yeah. He did Urban Legend, he did The Grudge, he did The Exorcism of Emily Rose, Drag Me to Hell, Sinister, Deliver Us from Evil, Pet Sematary, Ghost Rider. He even did Spider-Man 3. So yeah, the guy's had a very, very accomplished career,
score,
but it's memorable. To me, it's one of like the standout things from the whole film.
Yeah, it looks great, it sounds great, and there's at least one stellar performance throughout the entirety of it.
It's you know, we've got creepy ass score, complex protagonist, there's a mystery to solve. Bagul is creepy as fuck. It's a cool concept.
There's not a lot of him, which is
just like the right amount of
which is why if you really want to know my feelings on Sinister 2, go watch our video.
Go watch the video on Sinister 2.
But to me, Sinister it's a special film, and I'll always remember that year is because we had because obviously the same year Woman in Black came out as well, which is another great, weirdly like what inspired it, which would have been the original Woman in Black.
Yeah.
Is, the remake of that came out the same year.
Yeah.
It was just a really good time if you were into haunted houses and supernatural
horrors.
It
was, and you said like all of those three films, starting with Insidious up to Conjuring, all haunted house movies. At heart, they are haunted house movies, but they all kind of have a little spin on that.
They're trying to push the genre.
Yeah.
And even like then when we got The Conjuring, as we were going to this more next year, Conjuring kind of brought things back down to normal, and all that is a haunted house movie, just done really well.
Yeah,
there's just a high quality, but it doesn't actually try to put a twist on it in any way.
No,
it's just a really good haunted house movie. It's just
done well.
But Insidious and Sinister break it down to the fundamentals of, well, why don't you just leave?
Yeah, but again, like even in The Conjuring too, there's a conversation they have, isn't there, where they're like, well, God, we need to leave, we need to get out of the house.
Like, well, we can't.
Lorraine, they're like, well, first of all, our money is tied up within the house.
And who's going to take in a family of what, 5? Is it?
5 indefinitely. And then Lorraine even says, Lorraine Warren, like, well, it's the entity is now fixated on you, so leaving won't do a damn thing. Chances are it will just follow you.
Yeah.
And Paranormal Activity, which was a few years before, I think it was 2007.
Also Blumhouse.
One of the first that I remember to kind of tackle that issue, with the spooky stuff is happening, we'll just leave. Like even just spend the night at family's house or like go to a hotel. But again, it's not the house that's haunted, it's her.
Yeah.
So it's a there were a slew of interesting
in a weird
films
way. Ethan Hawke is haunted in more ways than one. He's haunted by his own past success that he's never been able to replicate. Obviously, he drinks a lot. He's kind of ignoring like there's lines about him. You're missing these years with your children. So it's like, obviously, he is being haunted in the house, but he's also haunted by is what he considers to be failure.
Yes,
and it's like he has had his success, but he is making himself more of a failure by not just providing. And obviously, he does come round to that revelation that this is not worth it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, by the time he comes to that decision, it's too late.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we pointed it out as well when we were watching it, something that I didn't necessarily really think about the first time, but that scene where it all comes out and his wife kind of explodes and she's like, why have you done this to us again? How could you lie to me? How could you put your children in jeopardy? And he kind of bites back with, what jeopardy at this point? Yeah, it's like, yeah, we've moved into a house where people died, but I mean, our daughter is just painting something that she's heard about. Our son is having a few nightmares because he's heard about it. It's like, it's not not life endangering. It's just, it's...
People move into previous murder houses all the time. It's like,
yeah,
realistically, they are, like, obviously they have been moved into a danger.
Yes, and also...
But they're also not in danger while they're in that house. It's when they leave. But it's like, I kind of see his argument. It's like, what's the danger here?
It's a weird thing, because, like, obviously, I am on her side. Like, I am very much on her side. He's lied to her. Again. And yes, the children are acting out and spooky things are happening. But
fool her once, shame on.
Yes. But I mean, at that point, from his point of view, nothing too awful has happened. Like, nothing even that scary realistically has happened at that point. So it's a weird thing. And, like, even before that scene where she confronts him, she has moments where she's like, oh, I think we should leave. I think it was a mistake coming here. And it's like, well, really not a lot has happened.
Yeah, and if it has happened, it's happened to him.
Yeah, it's like you've been there for about a week. It's like, maybe it's a bit too soon to be talking about leaving. It's like, you've made the commitment to move to a different state to live in this house, and then within a week you're talking about moving again. It's like, I understand, like, you need to build suspense for the audience, and, like, the character needs to show her concern for the children and stuff, but it's like, realistically, I think... talking about leaving would happen maybe after a few months, not a week of moving in. But yeah.
Yeah. Have you got any more notes on this one?
No, I don't think so.
I definitely think I'll rewatch it. I think it's every other year, every couple of years I rewatch. I think usually when it pops up on Netflix, it's usually I want to rewatch this.
I would I'd have to rewatch it.
Both Sinisters are currently on Netflix if anyone's interested in checking them out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Scott Derrickson. Like, he definitely has a
style. There's a lot of the style of Sinister in Black Phone.
Yes.
And even, like, I personally think he did a really good job with Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And at some point we're going to have to check out the Hellraisers. And obviously he did direct a Hellraiser.
He did, yeah.
I'm just very curious to see what he does next.
I am as well. I don't know what
I think you can definitely see... But... Obviously, I think it's pretty intentional that Black Phone came out 10 years after. And obviously I had Ethan Hawke as well. And you can kind of see how far they've all come in that time. So I don't think it'll be the last film they do together.
Do you know what is interesting? I've just cottoned on as well. We're doing this film because it's 10 years, 2012. We've done a few films this year that are either having their 10-year anniversary or their 20-year anniversary. So, like, 2002, 2012 were interesting years. 2022...
It's been quite an interesting year as well. So
it's like, you think about in 10 years' time, like, revisiting these films.
We'll revisit X.
Yeah, like, we'll probably revisit The Black Phone at some point.
Yeah.
There's loads. It's been strong for horror, God, yeah. Weird. It's happening every, like, 10 years or so.
Like I said, next year, I cannot wait to talk about the 10-year anniversary of The Conjuring. Because we know what that spawned. But this film, I think this is a very special film.
Oh, it absolutely is,
and
yeah.
It's just due to also, like, the performance, the smut films, the mystery of it. And I just do think the second one brings it all down.
Oh, the second one is significantly weaker, but for whatever reason, I kind of I like it.
It's kind of in the same vein as The Woman in Black 2.
I prefer Sinister 2 to Angel of Death, which is the sequel to Woman in Black. I would have Sinister 2 on in the background. I think we talked about it.
Yeah, it's a background.
Like, I would just put it on.
Whereas if I was to introduce someone to a scary film, Sinister would probably be on that list of films to introduce them to.
Yeah.
Along with, like, The Conjuring and Insidious.
Yeah, I think supernatural ones are a pretty good bet if you want to introduce people to horror. Because, again, it's one of those things where you don't even necessarily have to be a believer in the supernatural, but if the film is done well, then they can be effective. Yeah,
what's interesting, this wasn't even Ethan Hawke's first venture into horror, let alone a Blumhouse one, because he was in the first Purge film.
Oh God, he was, wasn't he? Yeah. But I hope he'll do more Derrickson films. I'd like to.
I think he will. I think they enjoy working together.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd happily see Ethan Hawke.
I would happily have any of his cardigans that are in this film.
I did actually make a note. Sorry, I know you asked me before if there was any more, but I wrote down, does Ellison ever actually take off the cardigan? I think there's just one scene where he's not wearing it. Like literally 99% of the film, he's in that cardigan.
And it's a great cardigan.
I don't even think he's washing it.
I don't think he leaves the house at any point.
It's very rare he does, isn't it? It's
Like,
literally only at the end.
To the extent he goes to the garden.
Yeah, at the end where they finally get out.
Yeah. Tell you what, it's a nice house. I know he says he got it for steel, obvious reasons, but that's a nice house.
Yeah.
Like, I would live there. I'd happily live there.
Isn't it a thing in America as well where if you've experienced like supernatural phenomena, you have to declare it?
Yeah.
In America, I think it's something like that. Where like you tend to see a lot of signs, like for sale signs, like not haunted.
Yeah, I love that.
Like that place is definitely haunted.
Absolutely. So yeah, thanks for stopping by, guys.
Sinister.
It's on
worth
Netflix.
A watch.
It's absolutely worth a watch.
Yeah.
Turn the lights off. Get spooked.
Yeah.
And 10 years later, it holds up just as well to me. Maybe a bit cliche, and what horror movie doesn't have like the odd bit of dialogue that's a bit like...
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially from like 20 years ago.
It's just it's me nitpicking, but just upon rewatch, I noticed it.
Production wise, it holds up really well.
Yeah, it's a cool concept for a horror.
And I just want to see what they do. We like the films they've done since. I want to see more.
I want to see a film of Sinister where a couple moves in, but they don't have kids. What the hell does Bagul do then?
Well, thing is, that must have happened.
It must have happened at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
maybe he just bypasses them until
he waits till they have kids.
Waits till they have the kids.
But one thing, I can't remember if I mentioned it in the Sinister 2 video, but Jason Blum really for a while considered doing a crossover event with Insidious called In Sinister. But he said that he was asked about it quite recently. He said it's most likely not going to happen now. I would absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Freddy versus Jason style, like the red demon, the lipstick demon from Insidious versus Bagul.
Bagul, yeah.
Fighting over his one child's soul.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh God, I would love that film. Right, good. I'm gonna go pitch this film on Twitter.
We're gonna do it.
Yeah, we'll see you next week, guys.